Hello and welcome. I'm very excited to be able to share with you about the Families Mentoring Families Family Literacy Center program. A few years ago, our family moved to Ghana, and we came without really understanding or really knowing the purpose of why we were coming. In the first year that we were here, maybe a year and a half, but for sure the first year, we had a lot of experiences that were just that. They were to give us experience. They were for us to be able to see what the needs might be and see where we might be able to make a difference in lifting our brothers and sisters that live here. And as a result, of course, we learned a lot from them as well, which is the purpose of Families Mentoring Families, right? It's families that are learning from families and supporting each other and uplifting each other through service, collaboration, cooperation, and education to develop leadership and self-reliance. One of the things that we noticed was how urgent the need for literacy was. I think it's obvious when you consider the family economy that it's going to be very limited if either the mother or the father is not literate. It's going to put severe restrictions on what they can do to support themselves and to support their family. We also noticed how much of the foundation of self-reliance that literacy is. Really, it was difficult to make any progress without addressing the literacy piece first. And so the idea that we had was to start literacy centers for families where they could come, mothers could come, we could have mom school. Before we came, I even remember pondering on why we were going. And one day the words came into my mind, mom school. And I thought, well, that's interesting. That's kind of an interesting phrase. But I tucked it away for a while. And then when we were here and we could see what the needs were, it started to make sense. And the pieces of the puzzle that we had had impressions about began to come together so that we could see a bigger picture. In this presentation, I'm excited to show you some pictures and give you a little bit of tour of the Families Mentoring Families Literacy Centers. We arrived back here the beginning of November, and by the end of the year, we had 2 literacy centers that were up and running. And that was very exciting. And then since that time, we've just been able to watch them grow as people have been coming. We've been able to get further clarity on what the needs are and how we can support people, what kind of programs we can implement, and how we can bless people through the Family Literacy Center. So this is a picture of my kids as they were setting up the very first Family Literacy Center. This is really a family project. It's a family initiative under Families Mentoring Families, and it takes all of us to work on it. And you will see these kids in upcoming photos because they are highly invested in this project as well. So what is the Family Literacy Center? So the Family Literacy Center is a place where families can come to practice their literacy, to study, to be tutored, to receive training that will help them move forward in their lives. So the idea behind it is that it would be easily duplicatable. Where we live, transportation can be burdensome for people, especially people on limited income. And so we noticed that it would be easier for them to come if we could put it in their neighborhood. And in order to do that, that means we need a lot of literacy centers, which means they need to be inexpensive to set up. So we designed it with a system in mind that would be easy to duplicate and put in. Obviously, if we're going to create many literacy centers, we want those to be affordable to be set up. So currently, if we have space that's donated, it costs us about $2,000 to set up a literacy center and get that up and running, which is relatively inexpensive if you're considering, setting up a library or something like that. These are mini libraries that are in the communities where people can come. Now, the idea here is that the literacy center is self-sustaining. This is done by opening the literacy center to the public as an internet cafe or as a place where people can come. They can pay us something small to use our internet. We have printers. They can print off the internet. They can copy things. They can buy small things like pens, stationery, notebooks, laminating services. Those are the kinds of things that go to create income from the literacy center, enough that it is self-sustaining. Now, currently, the literacy centers are staffed by a manager and volunteers. And in both instances so far, the managers are also volunteers. And I'll go into that a little bit more in detail later. In the Family Literacy Center, we have 5 tracks of education. that people can plug into to get more training. The first one is family education. This would include trainings such as Days for Girls that help girls and women with their feminine hygiene. It would include programs Standing with Boys, things like that to help young men. We notice that a lot of times people are focused on interventions for girls, and every place there's a girl, there's also a boy that needs to learn how to treat women, that needs to learn how to contribute in society, and also to build a strong character. So we want to promote that and make this a place where young boys can get that kind of training. We have courses available on parenting. Now, this does not mean that all of these courses are taught all at once. They're not. But what we do is in each literacy center, we assess the needs, and then these are possible trainings that we can offer as the interest arises and as we have people coming who want to further their knowledge in any of these areas. Okay, so we have parenting, marriage enrichment, how to create a house of learning, all these kinds of things about living together as a family that a lot of times we take for granted that everyone knows, and then we find out that no, some training would be appropriate and it would be helpful. Next, we have just basic literacy beginning to advance. And in the literacy centers currently, we have children who come and they love to read, and we also have adults, men and women, by far more women than men, but that's pretty typical here. We have all skill levels from very beginning in all of those age ranges to more advanced. We find that people especially are excited to work on their literacy that are already literate because they are excited to continue to learn and to gain more knowledge. Next, we have academic education, and this includes things like tutoring with school homework. We have a lot of kids who come after school to just do their homework, which is kind of fun. Sometimes we will have a family that needs help with school fees for their younger children, or perhaps we'll have a young person who's graduated from high school that needs help to further their education post-high school with their school fees. And so we have a program through Families Mentoring Families that provides a school loan. It's not a scholarship, it's a school loan that they then pay back to Families Mentoring Families with service hours to the Family Literacy Center. So currently, right now, both of the literacy centers are being managed by people who have received, or their children have received, their school fees, and they are just so grateful and so happy to help that they've taken on those responsibilities of running the literacy center, training on how to track everything and to make sure it's open and closed and clean, and they do a fantastic job. We're just so grateful for them. But that is to repay the loans that they've received for their tuition for their school fees. Next, we have vocational skills. We have trainings in self-reliance. We're getting ready to open the first sewing school in one of the literacy centers because that's one of the things that the women really, really were excited about and wanted to do. And the fun thing with that is as they pursue their sewing education, which will create a livelihood for them, they also are attending literacy because at the Family Literacy Center, in order to be involved in a sewing program or a vocational training, you have to also be enrolled in literacy and also be performing in literacy. You have to be showing up and working on that. And we have mentors and teachers, staff there to help people with their literacy. So all of these programs are coming together. So these are just options of things that we can help people learn. Some of them, like I said, the sewing school in one of the literacy centers is in one of the literacy centers. In the other one, the sewing school is not in the literacy center, but it's in the community, and we refer people. We have an arrangement with that sewing school that our literacy center participants, if they are interested in that, can go to that other sewing school, and there's an arrangement that's been made there. So we have opportunities to teach basic mechanic, which is really wonderful for young men because that way they can have a way to earn a living as they are pursuing their higher education. A lot of times, we'll have young men that want to go to college, but they don't have money for their school fees and they don't have a way to support themselves while they're in school. So some of these trainings are really useful on many levels. Computer science and accounting, and then also as part of vocational, we have small business loans that are available. And currently we have 6 business loans that are out and active, and they are all current. And again, these people are very excited to be able to grow their business. Most of the small business loans we have done so far have been with people who already had a business that they were operating successfully. They just wanted to be able to expand that, and they've done phenomenally well with that. Lastly, we have leadership education. Okay, so after literacy and academic and vocational, for people who are especially more literate, we can help them develop leadership through different mentoring programs that we implement. We have actually quite a few very, very good ones. So that's an exciting thing, and we're looking forward in the future to building this program out more. But they include things like mindset management, life story transformation courses, and there's just a lot of opportunity here, and we just keep asking ourselves, what else is possible? Okay, so now I want to introduce you to the Kumasi Family Literacy Center. So as you can see, this is just built in a street shop. It's just one room. There's no toilet. There's no water. This is just a street shop like all of the other street shops. Actually, it's a pretty nice one, so we're proud of it. But we're also excited for this to grow and develop. Eventually, we'll have bookshelves on both sides of the room as we can get more books here and as we can expand. So you'll see on the left here we have, these are free reading books. These are books that adults can read. The bottom two shelves are for children, picture books on the bottom, chapter books on the second shelf up. And on the shelf on the right, you'll see the different reading curricula that we have available to help people with literacy, and currently we have 3 of those, and we use all 3 of them depending on who we're working with. This is a group of children that comes on their way home from school, and we have anywhere, I think last week we had one day when I was there, and I'm only there a few days a week. For the most part, my job is to work myself out of the job and get staff and management trained well enough to run it without me, so that then we can go ahead and start a new literacy center. So here you'll see our story time. We have 2 story times, junior and senior. Junior story time is something that happens each day where we read a picture book to the children, and you can see how excited they are, and their attention is very focused on this. So typically what will happen is they will come in from school, they will choose a book from one of those shelves that they want to read. They will sit and they will read for a while, and then when it feels like we're getting a little bit restless, someone teaching will jump in. We'll have junior story time, and then we also have senior story time, which is where we read a chapter book, like 1 chapter a day, so they are following the same story within the book. That's for a little bit older children, but truly they all love anything that's happening in the Literacy Center. You can see the painting on the wall on the left. We've actually commissioned some artwork, because one of the things with the Literacy Center is we want it to be a beautiful place for people to come. We want it to be different than other places that they spend their time. We want them to feel different when they are in the Literacy Center, and I think we have achieved that very well just by bringing in things that elevate our level of consciousness and that elevate our ability to think. And so we're excited to have more of that come in as well. Okay, so here's part of the after school program. The protocol, just to give you a little bit of update about this, is when they come in from school, they take off shoes, they all dump their backpacks. We have a bucket just inside the front door. They all know to come to whoever's managing. She puts 1 drop of soap in their hands. They wash their hands in the bucket before they come into the Literacy Center. So there's not food allowed in the Literacy Center, because we're trying to teach them how to take very good care of these books. That's something here that we've noticed is not very common, is knowing how to actually even turn a page. We've actually had to have lessons in how to turn a page so that they don't just grab it in the middle and scrunch it in their fist, but to show them how to carefully take it by the corner and gently turn the page so that we keep the books very nice. And here you can see some children. They're actually reading a magazine called The Children's Friend, and the volunteer on the left is also reading to them as well. Okay, so one of the things we love about the Literacy Center is the opportunity to have 1 takes 1, which means we can offer one-on-one help with people in their literacy, and that way we can assess their personal needs, and we can kind of take everyone right where they are. And so here, this woman is actually the manager of this literacy center. So you can see here, this boy is reading a book from a phonics curriculum. And with this particular set, there's a sign up off chart where he can mark when he's completed this book. And in order to pass this one off to her, which is what he's doing, he has to be able to read it pretty fluently, without many stops, and be able to comprehend it, which means he may read it 2 or 3 or 4 times before he's able to pass it off to her. And then she will, they will find his pass off chart, and she will reward him with a sticker for completing this book. And here on the right, you can see this is my son, Josh. And the thing that I love about this picture is that Josh really struggled as a reader. He didn't actually learn to read, even begin to learn to read, until he was 11. He couldn't remember the letters. He had a lot of markers for dyslexia and things like that. And so it's been really interesting to see him grow in his own confidence and actually in his own skill levels. He's definitely been blessed through his service to the Literacy Center. And here you can see he's teaching this boy how to read and helping him to pass off his books as well. Okay, here is another group of kids that come after school. Some of them are new, but for the most part, we have a pretty consistent group that come, and then they'll bring their friends, and they come and go. So we'll have a group that comes earlier, and then they kind of work their way through, and some of them come later. But this is a pretty typical scene at the Literacy Center. Here we have Ben Tyler. He is reading to them and teaching them a lesson. But you can see they love to be read to, and they love to learn. Here again, we have One Takes One. This picture on the left is of a woman that comes. She's part of our mom's school, and this is actually her son. And he is helping her to learn how to read. She is using the curriculum from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for literacy. It's a fantastic program, and he is walking her through it. And I love to see when children are able to teach their parents how to read. It's very exciting. And then here on the right, another picture of our mom's school on one of the days that we had it. Okay, so here, this is Christine Tyler. She's teaching the curriculum from Reading Horizons, which has been donated by that company, and we're so grateful for them and for their support. And you can see here, she's teaching them how to decode words, and so they can figure out how to read them. In our Kumasi Literacy Center, this is a teacher training that we had. One of the things we found is that we need an army of teachers, not just one teacher, not just 2 teachers. We need everyone to be a teacher, including the learners. So even if a learner has been through the first class, we want that learner to be able to teach that lesson. And we actually invite them to be a teacher from their very first day. Because they're so excited. They've spent their whole lives thinking they could never become a teacher, and a teacher has a lot of status in this community because that means they've received an education. They've had opportunities that other people have not had. So when we invite them to be a teacher and they open their minds to the possibility that they could be a teacher, they are so excited to jump in, and then we try to put them to work right away in helping other people in the Literacy Center to also learn to read, to pay it forward. So this is a group of teachers. They've actually been training, and they are wonderful. We're so grateful for them. One of the things we like to promote in the Literacy Center is love of learning. And as you can see, this girl is just wanting to be read to, and this is another picture of a different son also reading to these children. Sometimes they will read to him, but the thing you will find at any time during the day, no matter who is there, is a very intense and beautiful love of learning. One day during our story time, I happened to glance around and I saw this. I saw all of these 10, 11-year-old boys. There weren't even any girls at all in the group. And as I looked around at them, I asked them, I said, would you like to have a boys group? Would you like to have like a club or just boys where we could do things? And they were so excited. And so was I, because that meant that this is our first Standing with Boys group coming in. So like I said, all of these programs are not implemented all at once. We kind of started off small with just story times and with basic literacy. But then as we've grown, this is exactly how it looks when we assess the needs. So the other literacy center in Bujaburam is growing a sewing school. This one, we're going to be growing the Standing with Boys program because they are excited to participate in that. This is another thing that we found a little bit surprising. We didn't expect to have happen with the Literacy Center. This boy on the left, I guess he's actually he's actually a man, but this man on the left is coming to learn how to type. So typing is a skill that many of us just take for granted. We don't really remember learning to type. We've kind of always known how to do it. But many of the people here have never had a computer, so why would they know how to type? Even if they're in college and they're using a keyboard, they're just typing with, you know, one finger on each hand. And so because we have internet and because we have computers in the Literacy Center, we're able to offer them to be able to do typing tutors, typing instruction, and they love to come and practice that, which helps them to also work on their family history. We also provide a space for them to do that here, and they are excited about this. These two kids on the right are also studying to be teachers. So they both go to school, they both study very hard, they're very bright, very sharp, but they want to be able to help other people. So when they come to the Literacy Center, they come to study and to learn on their own, but they're also coming to train specifically to help others. Here we have some guest volunteers that come by periodically to work with the children. Here on the right, you can see they're reading a story about the boy that harnessed the wind, which is about an African boy who lived in a very poor village, but he found some books he could study about engineering and electricity and did some remarkable things. I think they've even made a movie about him now. And here on the left, they're playing bingo. So we have a times table bingo game in the Literacy Center that they can play, but for many of them, that's a lot of processes all at once. So they're learning to play just regular bingo, and then as they are getting that, which they are, then we'll introduce a few complications so that they will be able to keep growing and continue to be challenged with that. But the fun thing with this is whenever anybody gets one, they just erupt in this just, yes! Yes, they just are so excited to even get one bingo on their card, or just like one number on their card, and then they'll help each other. Like they'll check their own card, and when they see whether or not they have it, they'll check their neighbors and say, oh, look, you have it here. And they'll help each other to be able to make sure they don't miss anything. So that's kind of fun. Okay, these are just some more pictures of some children coming after school to do reading on their own. And of course, when they spend all day in their studying, as we get ready to clean up, we sometimes will find that they will do some sort of recreation. So here on the right, they've put together a game of Red Rover outside the Literacy Center as we were cleaning up the inside, and they're having a great time. This is the Bujaburam Family Literacy Center, and Bujaburam is a community where Liberian refugees that came, some of them 20 years ago, almost 30. And they've been basically stranded there without means to return to their home country. Many of them have nothing to return to, but they live in a separate economy from the rest of Ghana, and they live a life of poverty in every instance. That means no running water, very little electricity, very few of them have money to pay for school fees, very few of them are getting an education. So this man is Matthew Davis from Matthew Cares Foundation, and he started this school as a charity school for kids on the camp who were not able to attend school because they could not afford their school fees. And when he found out about the Literacy Center, he offered us a room in the school that he's running to be able to put a Literacy Center there. And the thing that we find is that if someone's willing to donate space for the Literacy Center, and we don't have to upfront fund that cost, those get the priority for building literacy centers, because we also find that gives their community buy-in. Right? It makes them invest in their own education. It makes them invest in the literacy center that they want, okay? So we love to see that skin in the game from the community when we build the literacy center, because it will bless many more people. It will go much further. It will be much less burdensome to us and more of a blessing to them if they have their own skin in the game with it. And so this is actually a perfect example of how that works, and he's done a phenomenal job with it. So this is when we went to go set up this literacy center. Here we have the curriculum from Reading Horizons that they donated, and this is kind of a fun trip to be able to kick things off. A few weeks later, I was able to go back with Christine Tyler to bring some more supplies to the literacy center. And as we were getting ready to leave, everyone was bringing in chairs, and we thought, well, what's going on? What's happening? And they said, oh, you're doing a teacher training. So this is our very first teacher training that we had at Bujuburam. And you can see how many of these teachers, many of them are teachers at the school that have volunteered their time to stay after. Many of them are teacher training because they can use the literacy center at the school during their teaching during the day. So it's basically a school library they have access to that they didn't have before. So you'll see pictures coming up of some of the teachers reading to their classes, reading with their own kids. And just keep in mind that before the literacy center, probably none of these kids, well, not even probably, for sure, none of these kids have been read to ever in their life. So to be read a story is completely new to them. And so that's one of the reasons they love it so much. But these people are just devoted to lifting each other and to giving back to their community. These are people that have received some degree of education, enough to be able to teach in the school. And they appreciate it so much that they want to uplift others. Many of these teachers, they work for very little pay. In fact, I think one of the men here and his wife also works as the custodian, keeping the school clean and the bathrooms clean. And I think between them, they earn less than $50 a month. So pretty much they're working to give back to their community, and they are also excited to participate in those other tracks of families mentoring families to improve their secondary education, to for some of them, they want to move forward in a business. They're always looking for opportunities to support their families and to provide a better life for the future for their children and their grandchildren. Here's where we're setting up the literacy center. Those are the books we brought on our first trip. We brought those curriculum down, and we really only had a handful of books, and our biggest challenge right now is getting books here fast enough, because it's difficult to find book here in some cases of what we're looking for. We do like to include a lot of Africa-specific stories. So whenever we have books that are donated, we like to mix in African folk tales or books with African illustrations, so that the children feel like this library belongs to them. And we want to make sure that things are culturally appropriate, as well as the educational books that come in too. And that's actually really fun for us as the volunteers, and as we come across more resources for that. Some of those books we buy in Accra, some of them we buy on Amazon, and then we have to bring them over. But there's some really beautiful storybooks that the children love to read. And then here they are again at this literacy center in their classroom enjoying a story time. This is what the literacy center looks like when it's set up for a class. Everyone can sit in a circle. As you can see, it's just a beautiful room. This is the only room in the school that's tiled, because we wanted to make it something that would last and something that would be nice. So again, they feel uplifted. They feel like this is a place they want to be. This is a place they want to spend their time, and as much time as they can. Here is a picture of a teacher at the school with her class, and you can see she's reading to them. They're excited. We had the opportunity to go out in the community and invite some of these women to the literacy center. And it was interesting because when we would invite them to come to mom school, they would just look at us with this blank stare, like they didn't have any idea what we were talking about. Many of them have the belief that it's too late for them. Once they've had a child, their opportunities for education are finished. And so for us to invite them to come to school, they would just look at us and not even know what we were talking about. So we would try to explain, and we would invite them, and then we would tell them we would be back. And then they started to come. So this is a class that happens in the evening after school's out. Many of the adult classes happen between 6 and 8 at night, but not all. Some women, if they can come during the day, this particular literacy center, because of all of their teacher volunteers, is staffed from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So there's pretty much always someone there that can help someone wherever they are in their literacy needs. So this is a night class of Mom School. These are women that are coming to learn to read. A few weeks ago, we had the opportunity to go back. So a month after we issued the invitation to those women to come, this is what happened. This is what we found when we went back to do further teacher training and to bring some more books. We found 26 learners waiting for us when we arrived. So we did an impromptu learner leadership training, which is fabulous, because then they're beginning to see themselves as being the leaders, because they're showing up, they're working on their literacy. It's just another way they can feel like they are moving ahead, that they are lifting themselves, that they are lifting other people. They start to see fruits of their labor. Even as they're just learning to read, they start to feel like a leader, and that helps them to move along faster. So here you can see we read a story to these women, and these are the women who want to learn to sew. And so the other reason they're coming for their literacy is because that's a requirement. For them to be part of the sewing school, they have to be participating in the literacy program. And here, sitting behind me, the picture on the left, you can see these are the teachers that are working with them, the volunteers at the school, and then we have the women coming to literacy. And here is a picture of all of them we took afterwards. It was actually a pretty neat event. We had a very good time with each other. And I'm very excited to get to know them better as we continue to go back and offer support, continuing teacher training. We've got learner leadership. We're also going to begin implementing volunteer leadership, so that people who are volunteering their time get extra training in the leadership. We want to make sure that they also feel like they're progressing and they are also growing, so that they will continue to be part of our program. Now, our vision for the future, because even as we speak, we have many opportunities that have been expressed for people in other countries are very anxious to have literacy centers for them. And this is a group of people in Liberia just 2 weeks ago, probably, or maybe even just last week. This is one, and I've received 3 or 4 pictures of different groups of people who are already signing up for the Family Literacy Center program. And we're in the process of setting up the NGO in Liberia so that we can go in there legally and promote this program and be able to offer it to more people. We actually have people that are volunteering to help us manage it and to get the ball rolling, because they can see how much value there is for their families and in improving their livelihoods. So currently we have expansions planned in Liberia, probably 3 or 4. We have someone excited to explore this option in Rwanda. We have a couple of locations that have already been donated in Kenya. We actually have locations already donated in Liberia as well. And we're hoping to be able to make connections in the DR Congo so that we can bless people there as well. As I said before, the priority goes to those communities who are willing to donate the space. And so anytime that happens, then we know the community itself has skin in the game. And we know that they are really wanting that, and then we can come in, thanks to donations from people like you, set up the family literacy centers and watch things unfold as they have in these local ones that are the pilot programs. This is just a beautiful sculpture that I found at the market the other day, and I just thought it captured so perfectly what the Family Literacy Center is about. And it just has a lot of meaning to goals and the mission statements of families mentoring families.